Hello to our Facebook group of travelers. I am here with Josh of Trafalgar, and we are going to talk about not only Trafalgar, but some of the other family brands within Trafalgar's house of travel companies, because they know that every traveler has a different idea of what a travel experience should look like. Some people like to travel more privately. Other people are looking to travel in groups so that they can meet other travelers with like-minded interests. And separately, the Trafalgar family of brands has specific brands that relate to unique destinations. For example, in Ireland, Brendan Vacations is one of our preferred suppliers, and they are part of the Trafalgar brand. Josh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me today. Yeah, you talked a little bit about our different brands. I think one cool thing that people don't know is that Trafalgar, our organization, has been around for over 100 years. So we've been bringing travelers all over the world. We started in like a small hotel in South Africa, and we've really grown into this really great, massive travel brand. Really being able to show people all sorts of destinations around the world and trying to break some of those barriers down, which is really cool. And we're still family owned 100%, which is
right.
awesome.
I was going to mention that simply, we're talking about a house of brands, a family of brands, but the fact that it's these companies within the family remain family owned, and there is that focus on family, and we do a lot of multi-generational family, and that is another big emphasis, and something that I find evident in your different brands is that whether you're working with Brendan Vacations or your African brand or Trafalgar, you always have these itineraries that can be designed for the family.
Yeah, exactly. And what's really cool is that we did a bunch of research maybe 6 years ago, because typically, if people don't know about Trafalgar, we are a guided vacation company. So we do guided trips all over the world for all sorts of different types of demographic. Our demographics do lean, maybe our average age is around 58, 57, 58. But we really recognize that a lot of families wanted to travel. So maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we came out with our travel styles. And one of them we added was family specific trips. And those are really great because they are meant for travelers of all ages from 5 to 95. Travel together, experience something really, really unique and special together, and making those memories and not having to worry about like where to drive, where to park, who's mad at who, because we're going to take care of all that for them. And so we do those family style trips in Italy or the national parks or Costa Rica. And they're really cool just because it is experience that a young person would like, all the way up to a retiree, a teenager. They're really cool. So it might be like making pasta with some Romans in Rome. It might be hiking and looking for sloths in Costa Rica, or it could be visiting some of the cool like indigenous tribal lands here in the U.S. And they're really cool trips.
And you're right, you have these family brands, but then certain destinations might appeal to different people. And then within the destination, you still have different types of itineraries that might say, okay, in reading this itinerary, it seems to appeal more to someone that's more active versus someone who wants to focus on the academics or the education that a destination might be able to provide them, whether that's a focus on history and arts. So knowing that Trafalgar keeps that in mind, you really can choose an itinerary within a destination that is going to allow you to experience the things that are of most interest to you. And you'll also be able to surround yourself with other travelers with that same interests.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I really like.
Yeah, it's cool because you can, like you said, you can really choose the type of traveling experience that you're looking for, but you're always going to have that Trafalgar experience no matter what. Because on all of our trips, whether they're like a discovery or an in-depth style trip or an active or family trip, we're always going to have something called a Be My Guest dinner. And a Be My Guest dinner is where we bring you to someone's local home, whether it is like their local family farm or a local little bed and breakfast style thing in Ireland, or maybe it's even like a local ranch or winery, whatever that might be. we bring you to this family's experience, and they come out, they share their stories, and they share their food, and they're making dinner for everybody, and you just get to kind of laugh and experience what life would be like if you lived on a farm in Spain, or you lived on this pineapple plantation in Hawaii with this local family, because they're really sharing their experiences. So we do those Be My Guests all over the world on all of our itineraries. And then we also make sure that we include all of our stays with stories. So all of our hotel properties are really awesome. They're all 4 or 5 star hotel properties. But we also use these hotels, we call them stays with stories. And they're where really historical or significant experiences or cultural experiences have happened. So, like, for instance, we'll stay at this hotel up in the Northwest where Teddy Roosevelt decided that we're going to create the national park system. And so it's kind of like an homage to the national parks. Or we'll stay at the oldest hotel in the U.S. in Boston. And it's actually where like JFK proposed to Jackie, or where all these dignitaries from all over the world have come and really made some big decisions that have impacted the entire world. So we'll stay at these really neat properties just like that all over too, which is cool.
Right. And these experiences, whether it's where you overnight or where you might have a special reception or concert, are not things that are necessarily open to the general public. And I think a lot of our travelers plan private experiences. They want to travel, privately. But sometimes I think there might be a particular itinerary or a country where you might want to rethink traveling privately to be able to experience more local immersion and be able to, especially if it's something that is of significant interest to you. And these are things that Josh will inform us as we're looking for itineraries, are what are the truly unique experiences within a particular itinerary that you can't necessarily easily create on your own. And that might help you decide whether or not to experience a destination in more of a group environment. And one other thing to really keep in mind, that as a travel company like Trafalgar, they can also put together private group experiences. And Josh, elaborate that from the sense of how many people would that require, what type of flexibility you can offer to a group that wants to travel privately, but as a group.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I think is really cool about Trafalgar is that our entire goal and mission for our travelers is to be able to connect with locals, right? We want them to go off and make those connections with the people that they visit or stay with or just experience. And we do that in that guided group session. But because of our experience, we have a lot of people that do want to come with us on a private kind of group, like you mentioned. So we can actually create custom itineraries for any of your travelers. And we just need a minimum of 10 passengers, and we can do a max of 100, 200, whatever that goal is, because we'll make the coaches bigger or smaller or whatever it might be. And we can completely customize an itinerary, right? So, for instance, one of our really great you were talking about kind of behind the scenes travel experiences a little bit before. One of ours that we do that I think is awesome is you can go backstage at the Vatican, right? So the Vatican's massive. People wait in line for 100 million hours for it. But what happens with the Vatican with Trafalgar, we'll drive up to the entrance. A guide will come on, tell us what we're going to do. We'll go off. We'll just basically cut in front of everybody in line. And we get these private access to the Vatican, some private rooms that aren't open to the public. We get this kind of cool, experience in one of the stair rooms that's not open to the public. So you get a lot of opportunity to do backstage experiences. And we do that all over the world, all sorts of really big destinations. And we can also do that in our private experience groups too. And we talked a little bit about our Be My Guest program a little bit ago. We also do that in our private groups. So let's say you're doing a private group. It's in Ireland, and they still want that Be My Guest experience because they want to go to we work with a woman named Catherine Fulvio. She's like a relatively well-known chef on TV. And we'll go to her house, and she'll do this entire cooking demonstration and teach you how to cook some of her famous dishes in Ireland in her little barn outside of her family's home. So it's some really cool experiences that we touch in all of our private group experiences too. And like I said, you only need a minimum of 10, and then you can completely create your own experience that you're looking for, or just give us the destination and we can give our best suggestions for it too.
And Josh, you mentioned adventure a few times in our conversation. Tell me about this new brand, Adventure World.
Yeah, so we are launching a new brand in the US. So it's been around for about 40 years in Australia and New Zealand. It's part of the Trafalgar family of brands, and it is completely customizable travel. So you can have a minimum of one person, right? And you can completely customize your experience. And the pillars of Adventure World are the experiences that we're looking for are wildlife. So it's all about exploring the wildlife or nature of a destination. It's heritage. And so it's really experiencing some of the cultural experiences or cultural heritage places of the destination, or it's adventure. And I think adventure can be very subjective. So that could be like, for me, laying in an igloo in Iceland, watching the Northern Lights at night. And for you, it could be Mount Kilimanjaro, hiking the Kilimanjaro. So it's super subjective on what adventure is. And what I really like about it's really getting off the beaten path and getting out of the city centers and going to some really unique lodges in Alaska or floating Lake Titicaca in Peru. So some really cool opportunities, and we can completely customize anything. And our experts are based here in the US and Australia, and they travel usually 2 to 3 times a year in the destination to really get an understanding of where they want to go. So if, let's say, you want to go to Colombia and I have no idea what I want to do, I've always wanted to go there. Adventure World can create something really perfect for that person, to match their interests and their likes and their goal of going to a certain country.
Right. And when our clients want, when we talk to our clients, oftentimes they know where they want to go. Like you said, they don't necessarily know how to create that experience or how to build the day-to-day itinerary. But sometimes they also lean on us to determine the right destination based on where they've previously traveled and where they feel comfortable as it relates to taking certain risks when you're performing, more adventurous activities, as well as the types of hotels. And the amount of moving around can be a big component to someone's interest level and their experience, and whether or not they feel that they're getting enough of an immersion in a particular destination, and also just managing the R&R that you want to allow for in any vacation. Some people are fine with, I want to experience as much of this country as possible, so I'm fine with moving around day to day. Others want to, spend 2 or 3 days in a particular destination before they move on. So all of those questions and answers that I can discuss with our clients, or our team can discuss with our clients, allows Josh and I to really present some proposals for some fantastic itineraries that can be done privately or in a private group, or you can join an existing group. And a lot of people like the joining of an existing group, because it does, let's say you're traveling with 4 to 5 other people, but your interest levels are a little bit different. And there's the opportunity to connect with other people, but still maintain that trip with the traveler, so you can start and end the trip together and still share a room, things like that. So much flexibility when you work with Trafalgar. So definitely, it's great to be able to work with Josh and be able to find different itineraries for all different types of travelers. And what I really like about Trafalgar is that you guys really took an active lead in putting together US-based itineraries. I know during the pandemic, many of us, obviously most of us, were limited to traveling in the US. And there really wasn't enough itineraries available for group travel. And I think you've stepped that game up and have really added to your existing itineraries. I'd love for you to showcase various ways to travel with Trafalgar in the US by highlighting some of the activities that will be found on those different activities itineraries in the US.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we did during the pandemic, because you couldn't travel anywhere, is that we worked with the National Park System to really kind of figure out how many travelers we can get in the parks, all of their amenities are going to be closed. So how can we get the food, or how can we get into the parks, or whatever that might be? Where can we stay? And we were really leading the way with the national park system to help bring travel back to the parks. And I think that's really cool. And so some of the things that we did, we also looked at all of our experiences, and we wanted to make sure that they were unique and special and different. And so I'll go through a couple of them. So here is OO Farms. This is a family run. The guy in the hat owns OO. It's a family run farm in the mountains of Hawaii. And it's all about how to grow and live sustainably. And so it's a really cool day to go off into the mountains in Hawaii. You go to their farm. You check out the pineapple plantation. You check out what's growing. You kind of get a whole experience of the farm. It's a beautiful. You can just imagine the setting. You're in the mountains overlooking the ocean. And it's all about what's fresh and what's unique and what's different for that day. And they create a completely hand-picked dining experience for the Be My Guest dinner based off of what is in season. So it's a really cool and unique way. Their goal is to show off sustainable living. And our goal is to, really get travelers to experience something really cool. This is one of the favorites that's been added in the last few years. Here's OO Farms. We talked a little bit about our family trips. We work with this ranch in Montana, and it's all on our family trips. And so all of our families will come to the ranch, and you get this entire kind of Western cowboy experience on the ranch. So the kids get to go horseback riding. If they like, they can go hiking. You can go check out, depending on the season, you can go rafting, whatever it might be. But you're getting your full ranch experience. So it's kind of a cool thing. And the family that owns it, they have a bunch of young kids. And so it's a really it's like a summer camp for a couple of days. So people really, really love it. It's awesome.
And Josh, real quickly, I want to talk about the emphasis on national parks, because a lot of people go to book national parks. They ask us, okay, find us, lodging. We want to be, close to, Grand Teton. We want to be close to whether you're in Sedona
or whatever. Yeah.
Right? I was drawing a blank there for a second. The Grand Canyon, if you will, and everything's sold out. But the irony is, Trafalgar might have space and itinerary where you can actually stay in some of these properties. And in addition to being able to stay in some of these properties that otherwise would be sold out, you also get these exclusive experiences. So always remember that there is a resource out there in the travel industry, ourselves and companies like Trafalgar, that have space for properties that are otherwise sold out, particularly in popular places like national parks that sell out sometimes a year in advance.
Yeah. And what's really wild is a lot of people don't realize how the national park system works, right? Because a lot of times you get to go, you pay, but you don't, because they're all so massive, you don't see a lot of workers there, but there are so many different workers at all the parks, from food and beverage to park operations to whatever. There's a lot of people working. And what happened during the pandemic is the J-1 visas were canceled, and a lot of the park workers are on visas. And so they weren't able to come. So there was nobody to manage food and beverage or the hotels or whatever. So a lot of areas had to close due to the worker shortage. And so we were able to work with some of these properties and parks to make sure that we could stay there and not be impacted. And so it was a really, really great opportunity to really showcase what we can do. Like you said, you might want to go to Zion, but everything is sold out. And it's not because it's just there's nobody to work. But we've worked with these destinations to allow us to come still, which is really cool.
Right. And you also touched on, here was a situation where there was a shortage, and these shortages continue. There are different properties where you can't necessarily expect the same experience because of the issues that they're having with employee shortages.
Yeah.
However, Trafalgar is aware of that. And so what they're doing, and keep in mind, your itinerary includes most meals, if not all meals, depending on the itinerary. Yep. They're able to recognize where there might be an issue. And then what they do is they create an alternative experience so that your trip is not compromised. In fact, it's more than likely enhanced as a result of Trafalgar really researching and knowing what's going on in each destination, as well as the properties where you'll be staying.
Absolutely. I was just going through some of our other like images here, because that's exactly what we do. And some of these are kind of cool too, because with a lot of the experiences, they've changed the way that they operate their business. So a lot of these things you can't just go and visit anymore. And some of these dive into cultures are really cool because in Starbucks in Seattle, we'll go and visit the Starbucks roastery, and that was closed for most of the pandemic, and we were still able to go. We still get this really cool experience where this is the roastery that it's the massive roastery in Seattle that's closed. It's difficult to get into, and we have a award-winning roaster that will come out, and he or she, depending on who's there, will do this entire cupping experience with the coffee. We go off and visit. This is Stephen Yellowhawk. He's a really cool guy out in South Dakota, and so we work with a lot of indigenous cultures in the U.S. But he'll come out and he'll tell the entire dream story of his tribe and his family. It's everyone's favorite experience. It's super cool to kind of like learn a little bit about what it's like. We'll go to the depending on the time of the year, you can go to one of the powwows, which is awesome. And then in Nashville, this was also closed, and I think they're just reopening, so we're excited. But this is called the Cash into Cat, or Get Cash into Cash. And this is Johnny Cash's family. So they come out and they do this whole sing-song experience. You learn about like what it was like growing up with Johnny Cash. And it's just exclusive for our group. So we really want to make those connections really, awesome. I was talking earlier about the Stays with Stories, where it's like really historical hotels. This is one of them in Boston. It's called the Omni Parker, and this is where JFK and Jackie got engaged. This is where all the dignitaries from all over the world came and stayed. So it's a really kind of neat hotel. This one here on the screen, that's one of the lodges in Yosemite. And these are the places that we get to stay. And because of the way that we work with the national parks, we're able to really provide those really neat and unique properties. Because, the national parks, there's limited space, and they don't always have places in the parks to stay. And if they do, we get to stay there, which is pretty cool. So
first priority on space, right?
Exactly. So we really want to make those itineraries, especially in the U.S., super unique. One of the things that we did this last, maybe right during the pandemic, I'm going to just see if I can get to it, is that we added some active trips like you were talking about. So I want to see if right here is one of them. It's called Utah's Mighty 5 National Parks. You can see it on screen. You start in Colorado, right out in Grand Junction. I'm in Denver, and you end in Vegas. And you visit all the big 5 parks in Utah, and it's all about hiking. So it's small groups. So the max is maybe 30 passengers. And everybody gets to choose a hiking experience based off of their level or their interest for the day. So like you might go off to Moab, and it's like, all right, you can do the Delicate Arch, you can do this 5-mile hike, or you can do this 30-mile thing. See us tomorrow, whatever. And you'll have a ranger or a guide with you the entire time as you're hiking, so you don't get lost or anything. But it's a really cool way, so you can visit the national parks through, and instead of just seeing it and zooming away, you get to really experience the national parks, which is awesome.
And Moab is one of the most underrated places to visit, in my opinion. There's 2 national parks within 20 minutes of central Moab, and you just gave a really good example of how you can travel with other people who may not have the same level of ability to hike, or maybe they're afraid of heights. And clearly at Arches, there's some hikes that are pretty close to the edge. So that allows you to still be with your other travelers, but have some flexibility to do other things so that your overall trip isn't compromised based on who you're traveling with. So keep that in mind, that you have these itineraries that allow for some flexibility. And again, you guys are just doing a fantastic job with creating unique experiences around the national park. So to the extent that that's something that someone wants to do privately, imagine trying to find lodging for a group of 10 people. That's really hard to do. Whereas with Trafalgar, you can either join another group where there's 30 or so other people, or create that experience, that private experience as long as you have that group of at least 10 people. So what I also want to do real quickly, Josh, I know we have a group that we've put together for an organization, and they are headed to the Canadian Rockies in, I think it's August. Yep. And I just kind of want to quickly go through the detail of the documents. Now, we're not going to read this verbatim, but you can see the day-by-day itineraries are so detailed. And when it's a private group, we get to play a part in choosing the flow of the itinerary from the standpoint of, do we want to incorporate some special receptions? Where do we have, where will we dine? And if there's these opportunities, more than one choice in terms of how you can spend a day, we get to work to customize each day with Trafalgar, because it is a private group. So there's a lot more flexibility. But as you can see, there's a lot of detail. It's very thorough. And the fact that there are your tour guides. And let's talk about that as well. I mean, first we'll go through the itinerary, Josh, and then talk about the seamless process of working with Trafalgar, traveling with Trafalgar, and the added experience that is provided by the fact that you have these expert guides that are well-trained and experienced in their destination.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys created this Canadian Rockies trip, and it's awesome. So we have a Canadian Rockies trip that's a regular, normal guided trip, but it's a little bit longer. So you were able to kind of cut it down. What I really liked is what you guys did for this group is that you made certain days completely free so they can go off and explore on their own. And you made sightseeing days. So maybe the morning or afternoon it's sightseeing and they can explore on their own as well. But what's really great about traveling with Trafalgar is that we have an amazing team that's on the road with everybody at the same time. So we have a driver that's going to drive, everybody around. So you don't have to worry about parking or directions or anything like that. We have a travel director, and this is going to be the tour guide that's with the group the entire time. And they're in the background making sure that you're knowledgeable about what you're seeing, what you're looking at, what the history of the destination is. They're making reservations for the dinners the next night or the night before, or whatever it is. They're making sure that we have our rangers in place and that they're ready to go when we visit a park or a destination of interest. They also are making sure that everybody is comfortable and they're able to arrange all of our local specialists. So we also have local specialists that'll come on board. So when we're in Lake Louise or Jasper or Banff, we'll have different park rangers or specialists from the area come on, tell the group a little bit about the destination, maybe give a walking tour of depending on where we are. So they get a insider's view of where they're visiting. And then we also have a new thing that we added for the pandemic is our WellBeing Director. And this has been a great add because this person's entire job is to make sure that people are feeling well, that they have, if they need masks or this or that, they have what they need to make sure that they can go and visit some of the national parks because there's different rules, especially in Canada. It might be a little bit different. And if somebody does get COVID or if they break their arm or they fall or something just weird happens, there's an extra person to make sure that they know the hospital, how to deal with the local hospital, how to make sure like they can get their ducks in a row. It's that WellBeing Director is a really great peace of mind, and people have been really, really finding it useful. And so you can imagine, if you're in Italy, right, you're in the country of Italy somewhere, in the countryside, and you fall and you break your arm, you have to go to the hospital. How great is it to have a WellBeing Director with you who speaks Italian at the hospital, right? Like it gives you that peace of mind because we initially added it for COVID. And then we've had some experiences where somebody has fallen. We had to take them to the hospital. The WellBeing Director was there. They're the ones that can translate and make sure that you feel comfortable and secure at this foreign hospital. So they're a really great piece of addition that we added this year, which is cool for sure.
That is fantastic. And having that resource is just, you can't really put a price tag on it, and you can't predict how invaluable it may be to have that WellBeing Director in the event that something unforeseeable were to happen. Yeah. And I think that also gives peace of mind for people that have greater risk when traveling, whether that's a pre-existing condition that might affect them, or maybe they have some mobility issues. It just gives them the added protection and safety measures, just knowing that somebody's there, making sure that certain things are in place to the extent that something were to happen. So whether you're traveling with younger kids, traveling with seniors, or traveling with somebody who might have some mobility or other pre-existing conditions, that allows you to travel, and it eliminates the stress and worry related to if something were to happen. I think that's
100%.
kudos to you for recognizing the importance of adding that well-being director to your services.
Yeah, exactly. Because, our whole goal, like I said, we want to connect people with the culture, the destination, but we also want them to just have a nice time. So if we can take some of that, especially now traveling in a pandemic, there's a lot of stress, right? You don't know when you have to take your test to come home. You don't know, do you need a test to come into this new city or border or across the border? And just having someone there to give that peace of mind I think is really awesome, right? Because you want to enjoy your trip. You don't want to worry about all these little annoying things now. So let us worry about it, and you just go and have a good time. Hope you're on mute.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
I learned a lot from our conversation, and it just reminded me of the real specialty experiences and adventure that you incorporate into your itineraries, and the thoughtfulness. There's just so much thoughtfulness involved in the creation of the experience. So I appreciate it. And anyone who has questions, if you want to leave comments or you want to reach out to me directly, I'll make sure that I get those questions answered. And really, now's the time to be planning itineraries. I'll ask Josh real quickly. I mean, you have itineraries for 2022 and 2023 as well that are available?
We have 23 out now for most of our destinations across the world, which is awesome. So you can really start booking anytime when you're ready. We're going to be coming out with we actually came out with 2 new US trips 2 weeks ago. So they're brand new, and they're these really unique small group, we'll call them like luxury sprinter vans that will visit some of the lesser known national parks out in Montana and California. They're really, really cool trips. They're like a mix of active and kind of off the beaten path things. So those are going to come out. Awesome. We're also in January, we're going to have women only trips come out. So we're going to debut some of women's only trips. So there's all sorts of cool things coming. So definitely make sure to watch Trafalgar, because we have some cool things for you.
Absolutely. We'll stay on top of it and make sure that our clients are aware as well. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Josh. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.